How are your saltines? Take some of this.
They're good. They stick to my mouth.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some water. I started recording. You can say whatever you want. This is for posterity.
I love posterity.
Your posterity will know exactly your favorite flavor of saltines.
Make sure you have salt in your saltines. I don't know. I think journaling and I guess podcasting now has always been kind of weird. Because it's kind of completely unselfish. Well, that's not true. But it's... You don't film it for self-enjoyment always. It's for other people.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. I didn't realize how valuable that they were going to be actually filming podcasts until I went back and watched one. And then I was like, wow, that captured so well the way I was thinking and like what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
Listening to it again, you could remember exactly. It's kind of like when you smell something from your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it takes you right back to that moment. Listening to a conversation takes me right back to that moment because like so many emotions are happening as you're talking. You're thinking about so many things in your life that it like takes a snapshot of your life. That's why I enjoy doing it.
So I guess it is for you too.
Yeah, in that sense. I kind of think of it as for my kids too at some point. Like we don't have really very much stuff of our parents when they were young. Like footage, pictures. I always wondered like what they were thinking before I was born, you know?
Yeah. I always there's never enough of those.
Yeah.
Or if there is a lot of pictures, it's like 100 of 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's like when we're in the mood to take pictures, so it's like we have like 1 million of someone's birthday, but like we don't have them playing outside or we don't have pictures of their room or whatever.
Yeah, I always wish I got a picture of mine and Stuart's and Scotty's and Patrick's room in Lehigh.
The bunk bed? Did you not get any pictures of that?
Not that I know of. There's we were very meticulous in our poster choosing.
Yeah, I remember.
And how we set it up. And they were all covered.
Yeah.
And I when a new poster would get in, we'd like rearrange everything.
Uh-huh.
And it was like layered all cool. But while I remember it, I kind of wish that I had a picture of it.
Yeah. I took a picture of my wall for that very reason. I remember it was like a Muhammad Ali poster that I put up, and I just like built on it. And I built out from the base of the Muhammad Ali poster, and just like anytime I'd add a picture to this side, I had to find a picture to add to this side, and it just like grew into this wall eventually that I super loved.
That's actually really cool. Stuart did this similar thing, but with an American flag in his room.
Oh, yeah. I remember the poster that when you guys got that huge Avengers poster, the one that's like 15 feet long or something.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
I really liked that poster a lot. I've had posters since living in Lehigh, but not the same.
Yeah.
I like the idea, I just never put in the work.
Yeah. It says something about people's personality. The ones that care a lot about the way that their room looks, the way that like their home looks. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just it's interesting how they feel energy. It's interesting where they see value.
Yeah. I don't generally get energy from that kind of thing.
I don't either. I used to when I was younger because maybe it was because I was more emotionally attached to my environment. Like when I was a kid, my room was like the whole world to me. And so the way that my room was is like that was so much of my life was in that room. But now like we go rent an apartment and we're like, well, we're just like temporary inhabitants of this place. This isn't our world. this is just shelter. And so I don't feel as much like the need to fill it with things that represent myself because it doesn't feel like it's mine. And maybe that's because it's an apartment and not a house. Maybe when I get a house, I'll feel different.
I've thought often about like the value of cuteness, and the value of like sweet things, and I really enjoy people who put time into that, into like looking well and like making sure events look really nice.
Yeah.
But I personally just haven't.
Yeah, because it doesn't. I think maybe because I've never done it, I never do it. Because I've never felt like the value of making an awesome party and having people come and see how great it is and like have an awesome kitchen or whatever. And since I've never done it, I don't feel the motivation to do it ever either. And I think people that at a young age do things like that, like they decorate the house. Like Stuart, when he was a little kid, he would decorate for Christmas. And then people would compliment it. And so now as he's grown up, he sees an opportunity to get value out of it where I don't.
That's true. I think if I'm ever going to get married, it'll have to be to someone like that. Because I really value it.
Yeah.
It's not on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah. I really value it too.
The thing that's always on the forefront of my mind is just like conversation like this. I always go out of my way to stop doing stuff just to like talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having this conversation with Maddie yesterday because her family is very much like, there's like a different way of thinking about it. It's more like spherical thinking as opposed to like linear thinking. And I'm more linear thinking in most ways, where I'm thinking about things in my past or I'm thinking about things in my future. I'm always thinking about like goals or ideas or possibilities going forward that I can somehow either attain or, that I can work towards, something like that. The feeling of forward momentum is what kind of the way I think. Whereas Maddie thinks like spherically. Not that she doesn't think about those types of things, but she's like, I'm going to fill up the space that I'm in currently with my energy. Rather than putting my energy into the future or the past, she fills the present with light. Which is why she likes things like that smell good, things that look good, things that are cute, because it just like fills up the right now with a good feeling.
That's interesting. I'm very much like you. I think forward.
Yeah.
But as I've watched more and more movies that are inspirational, and because of a lot of theater is like, this moment right now is good. Especially because all shows end. And you only have like 8 cracks at it in high school. And About Time's another perpetrator of the like, be in the moment.
Yeah, be present.
It's a really sweet idea.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard because you want to be able to have both. That's why they say like, stop and smell the roses, stuff like that. Like those type of sayings is because if you live too much in the future, then you do it at the expense of the present, then when you get to the future, you're going to do the same thing again. And you'll always be waiting to be happy, which I think I have done, and I've seen people do, where they're like, when I get my promotion, when I graduate, when I get married, when I get back from my mission. And I've said those types of things, like I cannot wait for my life to start when I get back from my mission. And I can finally come home and like I'll be, old enough to get married and have money and do these things and kind of start my own life. But the problem is, it's like, that's now. You said that about this time period and another time in your life, and now you're there and you're still not satisfied. Yeah. And so I think finding the sweet spot between like, let me be happy right now, but not satisfied so that I can still think about the future.
Yeah, my senior quote that I found is exactly that. I didn't make it, but it was, sometimes in your pursuit of happiness, you should stop and just be happy.
Yeah, I like that.
I really like it. I think if you let excitement for the future fuel present energy, then both are working. If you could be happy now because of excitement for happiness later, then you're happy in both times.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like I found, like in my life, for example, like in a sport, I'm like, well, I love playing this, so I'm going to play it all the time. But by playing it, it excites me because I'm going to be better in the future.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a great example because that whole, it's not the journey, or it's not the destination, it's the journey, is true, but I think it can be both. Because if you're only in the journey, then you're also sometimes missing something. Sometimes like there's a deeper feeling of like, where am I moving? What is happening? What's my long-term direction? If you're only in the now, then you might forget to like situate yourself to move in a direction you actually want to go in. But if you're only in the future, then you'll never really appreciate the now.
Yeah.
And you just keep like, oh, got here, oh, and then you'll just forever be waiting to be happy.
I've thought a lot about recently being a senior in high school, the idea that the highest level of my maturity currently, when I'm acting the most mature I've ever been, will eventually be on the low end of my maturity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's this funny thought of like being aware enough to know that I'm not aware enough.
Right. It's kind of a paradox. Because it's like, if you're aware enough to know that you're not aware, then how are you not aware? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, as soon as you become aware that you're not aware, you're no longer not aware.
Yeah.
You know?
That's kind of funny.
I remember feeling that. It's kind of like the way I think about like a language or a sense of humor. I feel like maturity is the same way, where it's like, it is a language that if you don't speak the next level of maturity, there's no way for you to understand it. Like, you always feel like your level of understanding is as much as there is, because how can you possibly comprehend something past your level of understanding? And that's kind of the weird thing about growing up and maturing, is that like at every single age, you cannot see how you could be more mature. Like, well, this is exactly, like, my brain is fully developed. I can think anything I want. How could I, what's more to my maturity than, like, I am who I am? And only in retrospect can you see, you think back to when I was in high school, I'm like, oh, I cannot believe that I thought that was it. Like, I thought that was as much as my brain could handle as far as maturity, as far as growth, as far as empathy. But looking back, you can finally see how you weren't mature.
Yeah.
You can't really do it in the moment. Really, no matter how hard you try, even if people tell you, like, you're doing these immature things, like, no, I am totally mature. I'm just deciding to do these, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really strange.
I was having a conversation with my friend the other day about the word love, and how when people say I love you in their first relationship, everyone's like, well, is that really love? To them, that is their full comprehension of love.
Yeah.
And likely, if you're doing it right, every relationship should get better and better and better.
Right.
Right? And so you should, in every relationship, your full understanding of love is that.
Right.
But then you get a better relationship and you're like, that wasn't love. This
Right.
is.
Yeah.
But then the next one, and so with the relative definition of love, you've loved all those people.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with saying you're in love at a young age.
Yeah.
Because that is love to you. That is your capacity for love.
Yeah. I think with the maturity thing, you can. I always like putting caveats into it. It's like, I love you, but I know that I don't know what that means.
Yeah. No, that's a funny way to think about it. Yeah. Like, I love you to my understanding of love.
Yeah.
That's funny. And I think where people get into problems is where they kind of understand a level of love, but they want to express a more mature level of love.
Huh.
Like, for example, like, I understand you to my level. I'm 15 years old. Like, this is, my first relationship or whatever, and I understand you at this certain level. But I have been told that love means marriage. So let's get married.
Oh,
and it's kind of like, you do love them completely, and you do love them to your level of love, but that level of love might not be ready for this level of expression of marriage.
Yeah.
That probably takes more time. Or sex. Like, we're both 15. Like, I love you. This is how people express their love. I guess this means love. Where the two don't really match up. I think that's where people have problems.
That's true. I've never thought of it like that. I think something I've thought a lot about recently is trying to be genuine with all my expression of affection for people. And it happened a lot with a couple years ago. I really liked a girl, and everyone knew it, and she really liked me. And so people would tell me things to do. Like, it's her birthday. Did you buy her flowers?
Right. You're not going to kiss her today? Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt really obligated, but I hated. And I think about it now. It's like, if I'm gonna be romantic, so that I felt a lot of obligation for love, like the expressions of love. But I found recently that if I just do what I want to do, if I actually care about someone,
yeah,
I will want to be affectionate towards them.
Sorry, I have to start that timer. Say that again.
If I actually care about someone, I will want to be affectionate towards them. Like, I like hugging my close friends. Because I want to do it because I care about them.
Yeah. No, I have felt that as well. Like, not only that, but when you feel like you're trying to follow specific rules of a relationship, and you kind of force yourself to do specific things, even to hug them, it takes the value away from it. It doesn't feel...
Yeah.
It doesn't feel, first off, as genuine, but also you don't get as much joy out of it. Because it's like ticking a box. It's like, it's not...
Yeah.
I completely agree that I think that there's an affectionate confidence that comes from expressing affection the exact way that you want to. Because, like anything, let's say you're trying to be cool in front of your friends, and you act a certain way, and oh, Grant, you're so cool. You know all these quotes, and you're always wearing these cool, stylish clothes, and then you see those friends again, and you're like, oh, okay, what did I do last time that worked?
Oh, I've totally done that.
Okay, so they thought I was cool then, and I have to be cool again. Who was I the last time we were together? Oh, I was saying, maybe I have to be the funny guy. Okay, hey, everyone, and then you're funny again, and all of a sudden, over time, you start to forget how to naturally just be friends with those people, because you go and you just become what you think they want.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same thing with affection, where if you feel insecure about it, and you're like, oh, what does this woman like in a relationship, or even this man in a friendship? Oh yeah, we hug, or we back hug, or we kiss, or me and him, whatever it is, the way we express our affection, if it becomes like, how do they want me to act? And then I'll have to remember it and become that person. Then over time, you'll stop feeling real affection.
Yeah.
Over time, it'll become desensitized because it won't be, like when you don't feel like expressing affection and you don't hug someone, I think it actually grows your connection because that's how you really feel. So when you do want to hug someone, it feels that much more real.
That's true.
Kind of like the imperfect way that you express yourself ends up being the only way that you can really connect with someone. Because if you're trying to manipulate your expressions, you're trying to manipulate your affection to match what you think they want, first off, you'll never be able to do that. And second off, it gets so watered down over time. You forget what you really want to do, and you forget. Yeah. And then you can't express like overly affection either, because that's also not appropriate. You just don't know. You're like, okay, I know this works. Yeah. This is our relationship in this box.
I always kind of get nervous when people like say things that I'm good at. And they're like, yeah, you're so good at like bringing up these conversations. And it's like, don't tell me that, because then I'll think about.
Now I have to be that guy for the rest of our life. I know that's happened to me too. Like my friends always saw me as like the guy who knew movie quotes. So I'd like come in and be like, who wants to hear some movie quotes? Movie quote guys here. It's like, I'm not actually that good at it. It's like in The Office when Andy, have you seen the episode when Will Ferrell's the boss?
Yeah.
And Andy like says some joke right when they meet, and he's like, funny guy, and then the rest of the episodes Andy's like trying to think of ways to be funny, and he like gets scalding hot coffee and like pours it on his crotch. He's like, I don't know what to do. It's like that. Like if someone compliments you and like you let that become like your ticket into that friendship, then
it's
it
like
kind of messes you
up. With very specific movies, I can talk for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And then people are like, oh yeah, like you know so much about movies? What do you think about this movie? Never seen it.
Like, crap, no. They see me as the movie guy. I can't ruin this.
I have to research every movie
just ever. In case. Like, I remember we went with Maddie's great uncle and grandma to a baseball game. And I was doing this like crazy diet thing with some friends just like as a challenge. And so I hadn't eaten anything since like 9 a.m. This was like 7 o'clock at night. So I was super hungry. And this is one of the first times we'd ever hung out. And so we go to this baseball game. They have a free buffet thing. So I eat literally 4 hamburgers and 4 hot dogs in like a 5-minute span. Because I just had not eaten all day and I've been trying to do this diet. So I was like, down them. And now, that was like years ago. Now, every time I see Maddie's grandma, she's like, oh my gosh, here's the big eater. Here's the guy. Keep this guy away from the table. He's going to eat everything. And now I like feel the need to like, crap, I can't let her down. She sees me as that. And it's not even true.
Yeah.
Even though I've told her, she's still like, oh, you're being modest.
I think that's always really funny. I hate social obligation.
Yeah.
Because when I don't feel that, I'm just like so happy.
Mm-hmm.
I've actively tried to be more genuine over this past. It's been one of my goals recently, and I've worked a lot on it. And when I don't smile as much, I end up being happier. Because then you put worth into everything you do.
Every smile you have is more valuable.
Yeah, and I had a long conversation once about social interaction and stuff, and we got on this tangent of like the point of life is not to be showy or not to be happy, but to be intentional, to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And if you're intentional, that leads to happiness. Instead of, if you're happy, you'll find out your intentions.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
And it's really been helpful to me, knowing that like, oh, I will just decide why I'm doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And it will make the why I'm doing it, if I have that, it'll make the whole experience better.
Yeah. Well, I think that something that comes from, I guess, confidence in yourself and like self-worth is the ability to decide the way that you want to be and then have the world fill in around you rather than find who the world wants you to be and you fill in yourself to match it. So like, for example, every type of person that is inside of you, and there's a lot, there's like you with your grandma, there's you with your friends, there's you at the party, there's you nervous at a party, there's you the man at a party.
Yeah.
And there's you like pretending to be extroverted, and there's you actually being extroverted. Every version of yourself is applicable in different scenarios. But I think if too often, kind of like we were just saying, you choose to try and create a version of yourself that is not what you are actually wanting to be, then you lose the ability to know yourself. Like you start to lose social instincts. I've noticed that with myself. Like if I go into a situation and I feel like I have to be like Mr. Outgoing, Mr. Talkative, like Mr. Cool, whatever, and I'm trying to impress people, and so I act in a certain way, but my instincts aren't telling me to act that way. My instincts are telling me like maybe you don't know these people, or maybe you're nervous, or maybe you should listen and like be the guy who's just observing and chimes in. When I betray my social instincts towards like because I want attention or I want someone to like me or whatever the reason is, anytime I betray my social instincts, I lose them a little bit.
Huh.
And then the next time I can't remember as easily which one was the right choice. Yeah. Then I just have to mimic it again. That's why when I see people that are always one way, like you see someone, there's probably a guy like this in your school that's like always Mr. Cheery.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I know what you're talking about.
Everyone loves John. He's just like always smiling. He's always in a good mood. Usually what I think about that person, not always, but almost always, there's like a deep sadness or a deep feeling that they don't have self-worth. And so they have to put that on because they're afraid of what their natural social instincts will tell them to do. It's like, I'm so sad. I don't want to just, like, no one loves me. So if I really just am who I am in this situation, then I won't get love. So I have to fake a different type to feel love.
I think the people I like the most are not the people who are always positive, but the people who are down to earth positive.
Yeah.
I think too often I know a lot of people that in the name of being true to themselves are just mean.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you can be true to yourself and be tactful.
Absolutely. Or be quiet.
Yeah. Actually, I've also found that going into like high energy situations, I end up talking more and I end up being more confident if I go in like completely neutral. Yeah. Like, oh, anything will affect me the way it affects me. Mm-hmm. And so I come into a party or a big situation kind of reserved, but then the party itself makes me excited because those things excite me.
Yeah.
That will eventually, it always happens like this. I start, no one's really talking to me. I talk to like a few select people. Mm-hmm. And then I genuinely get the energy and all the focus turns into me like everyone wants.
Right.
But if I do it genuinely, then I feel like I have cause to be heard. Mm-hmm. And that I have things to say because I'm only saying stuff that I want to say.
Right. Well, I think that, again, like, your ability to just naturally and organically react to people and then take in their energy and express your energy and have a conversation by just following what feels normal will lead you to that type of thing, being the center of attention or feeling like you're being yourself or, feeling charismatic much more than trying to be charismatic. Like when you come in, I think your brain knows. I have a theory that like you're born socially almost perfect. Maybe not born, but like your natural state for almost everyone is like socially almost perfect. Like you're not awkward, you're not weird, you know what to say at the right time. But I feel like outside influences and your own brain are usually what cause social problems. So if you were just to act exactly the way that your instincts were telling you, and this is not always the case, but like you were saying, at the party you just go in neutral. It's like, how am I going to react to this person? I'm in this conversation. How do I react? Okay, I'm in this conversation. How do I react? Rather than trying to have people think of you in a certain way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I learned in a seminar that if you want to be the man, you come in and you make a big statement right when you walk in. Like, hello everyone, what's up? How's the party? And if that's not really what your social instincts are telling you, then that's not going to pay off in the way you think.
Yeah.
That's the problem with learning about like how to be charismatic or, how to make friends. Not that it's not valuable, but if you become too like by the book on things, they kind of end up backfiring.
Yeah. It's like, I think socially, it's like the nerdy clothing generally always it once was cool clothing that they kind of caught it too late.
Yeah.
Or like it's a little too small. They didn't quite get why it was cool.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the same thing I think with nerdy or socially awkward people. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to talk about what I'm passionate about.
Right.
Well, I'm passionate about Minecraft. So I'm going to aggressively go to you with Minecraft instead of just listening and reacting.
Yeah, and what's weird is that someone who gets it could talk about Minecraft and make it work.
Yeah.
But someone who doesn't is like, oh, just talk about what you're passionate about. Like, hey, so I love Minecraft. And like, oh, you just started the conversation with that. Like, that's, what did you read in the situation that would tell you that that's what I wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
But someone who gets it would come up and be like, hey, how's it going? You like the party? Like, yeah. Like, what have you been up to? I don't know. I've been playing Minecraft. It's awesome. And then all of a sudden, they're also talking about it.
Yeah.
But they've calibrated their passion to the situation.
It's like in Mission Impossible 3, Tom Cruise's like secret, his, I don't know, alibi is that he works in like traffic engineering and how to like limit traffic.
I didn't know that.
And it's like he starts talking and then his wife is like, yeah, everything he says is really boring, but he's just so good at saying it. And then he has this like long conversation about like there's this flow of traffic, but like it's Tom Cruise, so it's like the most interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I think about it a lot, where it's like you can literally be passionate about anything. There's nothing you should really be ashamed of.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's just how you go about presenting it.
In fact, being ashamed of your passion, I think, is a huge turnoff, because it's a signal that you are ashamed of yourself, kind of. Yeah. Like when people are like, "Oh yeah, I like theater, but like it's so dumb." Like downplaying their own interests is, I think, really unattractive, because then you come across as like if you don't even think your passions are interesting, you don't even think you are interesting, why would I think you're interesting?
Yeah. I think if you can just be perfectly honest with what you think, then what you say is more interesting. Because, for example, in Hamlet, I really enjoyed being in that show. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of the like weird stuff about it. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the music doesn't really match. But because it's not like I'm not ashamed of that, because I know the parts of it that I really love, I can talk about both and be comfortable. I think the majority of social interaction, good social interaction, is just comfort. Being comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
And I think that a lot more people would realize that they like socializing if they felt comfortable with themselves. Like you said, it's comfort, and everyone wants connection. Everyone wants to be seen and to be understood by someone else, and to see and understand other people. But there's a pressure that comes in wanting to be liked, or being liked or loved and losing it. There's a pressure that comes with like building relationships, and the fear of losing them sometimes is hard for people. But I think that if people could, and I wish I had the secret to this, I don't. If people could just be completely honest about who they are and put it out there and risk people not liking them, like, these are my interests, these are my fears, this is exactly who I am, then socializing would become so much easier and so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
People are afraid to be exposed, I think, sometimes.
I think, and I've heard this a lot, but it only really meant something to me recently, about like abundance mindset.
Mm-hmm.
With the like, there are a lot of people, and I've connected with a lot of people. And if I can understand that in the moment and be like, in this moment, I'm connecting to you because hopefully you're cool and hopefully you like me.
Right.
But if you don't and you're not cool, I really haven't lost anything.
Right.
Then there's no fear.
And then more likely you'll connect with them.
Yeah.
Because the fear is what drives people away. Because fear makes people needy. And fear makes people text their friends every single day to ask them what they're doing. Because they don't want to be left out. And fear, makes people have affairs because they feel like their wife might have an affair with them. So they have to beat them to it. Like, I think I completely agree. I think if people could just have the confidence to be seen for exactly what they really are, then love would come much easier to them. And that's what's so hard. You say that as if it's an easy thing. Like, oh, what are you talking about? Just be yourself. Just own exactly who you are. But that's like the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Just being okay with yourself is like a lifelong pursuit. And it's also like a muscle that needs you need constant work, in my opinion.
Yeah, I related it to naming one time, about how it's a good thing that you don't name yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you'd always be wishy-washy about it. You'd always be like, well, there's a better name. There's something that represents me a little better. This doesn't feel good. But if someone names you, right, then all you have to do is come to grips with it.
Yeah.
I think that's with yourself too. If you're always trying to change what you are, you'll never be okay with it.
Uh-huh.
But if you understand that while the facets of you and your skills will change, the essence of you doesn't.
Right.
The reasons why you make this thing, why you want what you want, roughly stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know that, and not try to seek for the grasping at the air of the rest of your personality,
mm-hmm.
then all you have to do is come to grips with this.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be more happy.
I heard an interesting analogy the other day that I really liked. It was kind of silly, but it kind of sunk in over time. Right when I heard it, I was like, that is dumb. But so what it is there's a woman, she has lost her keys, right? Her husband comes home and she's looking for her keys underneath the dining room table. He says, what are you doing? She says, I'm looking for my keys. And he said, oh, did you lose them under the table? And she said, no, actually, I lost them in the basement, but it's dark down there, so I don't want to look there. So I'm looking here because this is where I can look. And I think, to your point, people, they know who they are. They know deep down what their core essence is. And a lot of the time, if they were able to accept that and to look at that, they could change so many other things about their life if they start there. It's like, this is what I want and this is why, instead of looking somewhere else and trying to change their core essence. That's why people do things that are totally irrational sometimes. They're like, they're not okay with who they are, so they go out and they try to reinvent themselves in a way to escape their essence. But if they could just look inside and be like, okay, this is who I am. Now from here, I can move on and make real decisions.